let's get started with our session for tonight. That's why you're all here for, motivating learners online. That's what we've been trying to do all these months in front of us. And to help us out tonight, we have invited our lovely Livia Pataki. It's the second time Livia and Ravi are joining us. So Livia Pataki is an ESL and EAP instructor. She's a TESL practicum supervisor and IELTS specialist with 21 years of experience. She has worked as a teacher, curriculum coordinator, teacher trainer in the UK and in Canada. Currently, she's working as a full-time ESOL lecturer in London, UK, and an EAP instructor at the University of Waterloo. Formerly, she worked as a PD consultant at YWCA, an EAP instructor at York University, a professor at Centennial College and Sheridan College. She's a certified online learning course developer by TESL International Association since 2018. Tonight, Livia is joining us from the UK. And thank you for doing
everyone.
This.
Thank you so much, Loretta. And hi, everybody. And thank you for tuning in tonight. It's midnight here, so yeah, I hope you're going to have a good time. Thank you.
Those are the sacrifices professionals like us make. So professionals like you do make. Thank you.
Thank you.
And our second lovely presenter and subject matter expert is Mitra Rabi. Mitra is joining us for a second time as well. She holds a PhD in applied linguistics, TEFL and TESL, with over 28 years of teaching experience at the post-secondary level. She's a TESL Canada and TESL Ontario certified English instructor with over 10 publications and over 20 presentations. Currently, she's teaching in ULE at York University and CELS in Seneca College. Welcome, Mitra.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, everyone. And I'm super excited, just to be with you, having, as usual, a very, very helpful and engaging, discussion together. So this is just, the motivation that I think has brought us, all together. One from UK and all the others, from everywhere in the world, including Canada. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Loretta and Colleen.
It's a pleasure. Perfect. Thank you. So we'll start our session tonight with a poll. Don't we love polls? Over to you, Livia. Could you introduce us to the first one?
Yes. Hello, everybody. So the past 18 months have been a roller coaster when it comes to teaching, and we were all forced to explore online learning technology and pedagogy in a matter of days when we were forced to teaching online. So my first initial question when I was thinking about the topic is for you. How quickly did you adapt to this new learning environment, new teaching and learning environment? So the question is, how quickly did you manage to adapt to it? Number one, I adapted immediately, or 0 to 6 months, or 6 to 12 months, or I never really adapted. So if you open the poll now, Loretta, then let's see what the audience is saying. I think this is a very interesting question.
Loretta, are you able to see the polls on your side?
No, because I'm screen sharing. Could you help out?
Stop sharing for 2 seconds. Oh, you can see it? Okay, perfect.
Okay,
I launched it.
You launched it? Okay, thank you, because I can't do it.
No worries.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. That's teamwork.
That's teamwork, yeah.
Okay, so the polls are coming in. I'm just going to admit Anjana as well. Thank you. Okay, we're just waiting for 5 more people. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so I'm going to end the poll and I'm going to share the results very quickly. Is that okay with sharing the results, right?
Yes,
yeah, sorry. Yeah, so many of you, as you can see, almost half of the audience says that they adapted immediately. 7 said 0 to 6 months. The other half said that up to 6 months. It took them 6 months. More than 6 months, between 6 months and 1 year. And we do have people who said I never really adapted. I wanted to pose this question initially because I think whether we adapted or not, it really depended on 2 things. Our own level of comfort, the comfort level with technology, I had many colleagues who actually threw the towel and said, I'm not doing this. And I had also colleagues who said, like, yes, let's do it. This is something new and I want to do it. And the second was how much support we received from the organization that we were working for, whether it's a college or university, or if you're working for a government-funded language school. So those were the two main factors, at least for me, to adapt quickly or not adapt at all. I don't know. What about you, Mitra?
Yeah, for me, based on, what we experienced last year in March 2020, right? It was, prompt on the spot, and we were just, forced to do it. And we didn't have, any other choices. Otherwise, just, no teaching. Yes. So that was actually, I remember at York, it was just a 2-day, let's say, length of time that we had it. And at Seneca, I think we had 2 weeks, because it happened, in Seneca a week after York. Mm-hmm. And since, March 2020, I think all of us have been teaching, online. Correct. But still, I'm learning, attending, workshops, seminars. I'm doing, webinars. So that's, a good learning lesson. And still I'm learning. So I think there is no end.
I think all of us.
That.
Yes, there is no end to it. I think it's all of us is the same. So I just wanted to link one more thing to that. As per introduction, before we start looking at the questions, when I looked at the research, more than half of the parents said that their child was not engaged at all in education at home. 3/4, they said that the reason was motivation. But motivation is actually a two-sided coin. Teachers may also find it harder to teach in the classroom. So initially, when I was thinking for a TESL dialogue topic, this was the reason why I wanted to bring in this topic, to talk about motivation. It's a two-sided coin, motivating learners in an online learning environment, but it's also closely linked to our own motivation levels as teachers, right? So I just wanted to point that out before we start with the first question. Thank you, Loretta.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for participating in the polls and for opening up the discussion. Great. So let's start with our very first question for tonight. How would you define motivation? Livia?
So motivation, when I was looking at the definition, there are so many different motivations. Motivation, process that initiates, guides, maintains goal-oriented behaviors as a psychological definition. But actually, motivation could be anything that happens before we act, or it could be something that is intrinsic, something that is extrinsic. There are humanistic theories, the Maslow theory. There are so many different theories what motivation actually is. I think in a learning environment for us, we could say that learner motivation is often defined as intrinsic, where learners are interested in the course, they are interested in the subject, they like to improve their language skills, and the learner motivation also could be extrinsic when they are working to gain something from the course, like interested in earning a course credit, for example. And that manifests, for example, at the university level in the ESP courses, English for Specific Purposes courses, when learners are learning EAP, but at the same time they are studying for a credit course. So in that sense, their motivation is more extrinsic because they are studying for a reward, and the reward is the credit. So that's how I would define these two types of motivation. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, can I add, something
Yes.
to what you said? So generally speaking, apart from, the theoretical foundations, okay, like, any other concepts in teaching and learning, let's say, the second language or the foreign language, we can just, define the desire to learn is often related to the concept of motivation, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So whenever we have, such a desire, so it means that we are motivated. But the concept of motivation is different from engagement, that I'm not going to just, open it up here, because that's going to be just, opening a can of worms that I'm not going to do it here. But we can, just do the discussion, maybe later. But because you mentioned, the theoretical concepts behind this, so I want just, to clarify the three basic concepts. That number one, that relates to social psychological perspectives of language learning that emphasize the role of the individual's social context and social interactions. The second type of theoretical, let's say, perspectives are called the cognitive ones. So all of us as, English, let's say, instructors and educators, we know the concept of, cognition, cognitive science, and, whatever is relating, to the psychological mind. So it focuses on how the learner's mental processes influence their motivation. So the same as you said, Livia, we have different types of, motivation, right? Integrative, instrumental, some of them are extrinsic, a group of them are extrinsic. So we have different types, and, there is a, let's say, long history of that proposed by Gardner and Lambert. But the purpose of, the TESL dialogue is not just, going through the theories, right? We want just to have the discussion, elaborate on the pedagogical aspect of that. And the third one is going to be, the models of the process-oriented period. And I think this is, something that we are always, trying to have it, in our classes, no matter we are teaching face-to-face or in online mode. So this actually explores the short-term and long-term changes in the individual's motivation as they learn L2. So this approach views motivation as a dynamic factor which fluctuates within a class period, a year, and a lifetime. This is what we exactly, we have experienced, no matter, teaching when we are, physically present in class, or even, in online mode. You see at the beginning of the class, some of the students are not engaged. They are not saying anything in the chat box, and you are not sure that whether they are there or not. You just see, the black boxes with their names or some strange pictures. Mm-hmm. But, in the middle, depending on the level of, let's say, energy that you put into the class, you see that even, I don't know, the shy ones, the introvert ones, the ones that they were, really demotivated, but they just, joined the discussion. So these are, the things that we have to take into consideration when we are talking about, motivation, engagement, online mode, and whatsoever that is the main topic and the theme of today's talk. Thank you.
Mitra, thank you so much. And Livia, thank you. Those were some really insightful responses. And now I want to really open it up to the audience. There's already been some really great chat happening already. Yeah, it's been fantastic. But I want to remind everyone who's here that you're not just here to attend, but we'd also love to bring you in because you are experts in your own ways, in your own levels, in your own contexts. So we'd love to hear how you would define motivation. We would love to hear that. And if you want to speak out loud, remember you can raise your hand. If you prefer to write a comment in the chat, I'm more than happy to start reading those out loud as well. So we'll give you some time to collect your thoughts, and we'd love to have a discussion here.
It's like Saturday. Yeah, it's like Saturday night open mic session.
Well, there's a really active discussion happening in the chat about the difference between one-on-one teaching when it's, for example, online or by phone, or group teaching when it's online or by phone, and how motivation affects that, because those are two very different situations. So thank you so much to Xavier, Deborah, Shayna, who've been, really discussing these factors and how they've been doing it previously. But when it came to this new context, they had some familiarity. However, when you add in the element of a large group, it really changes what you can and can't do and how you can motivate one person versus so many people.
Mm-hmm. Well, we like to, to hear from Xavier, I think, or I don't know, Xavier, if I'm just, pronouncing your name. So sorry about that. You mentioned that you've been doing, telephone teaching.
Yes.
So maybe, you can just, tell us, how did you do that, or how you are doing it?
Mm-hmm. Well,
telephone, teaching. Yes. Thank you.
I used to do telephone teaching. That was like in the very early days, like when the internet was like not yet started, but it was getting there. So in the old days, what I would do is I would have like a list of students that I would get from my language school, and then I would call them up, introduce myself. I would call them up a day before, introduce myself, explain, find out what are their needs. Okay. And then, then go through like a list of what are their goals? What do they want to learn? What are their weaknesses? How can I help? Okay. And then with that, we would I never made a formal lesson plan. Okay. Maybe I should, but when you have sometimes like 10 students, okay, literally one after the other, there's just no time to prepare. And I know more or less, after a while, I knew more or less what all my students, their major weaknesses were, in the sense that they all have common weaknesses. So I was able to focus on that and then work. And then I would work specifically on their specific requests. But first I want to do the basic errors they all made. And this was like one-on-one. So so that's how I did it. I used that experience later. To be brief, I used that experience later on when we went with the online thing. That was very helpful. Mind you, when I started doing the online, it was with a well-known language school. It's a known brand around the world. They were just starting it because I had been pushing really hard. And I even spoke with the regional, what was his title? The regional director for the Southeast Asian, about this. And he seemed interested, but unfortunately the home country was still very resistant to the whole notion of that. And it's one of the reasons why I eventually left. And when I went, and then I worked at an international school, and I tried to do the same thing. It's not so much internet, but pushing smartboard technology. Like using all the online, like buying the not online, but buying the electronic version of the textbooks so that we could use it. And then that was, they were very resistant. No, sorry. I don't want to take up too much time.
No, it's great.
The teachers were very old school. Yeah. And it was very, 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 we're talking really old school, because we're talking Asia plus old school, plus it was, and you just, I was just literally I was literally to the point I had to back off because I was getting frustrated, and I wanted to contribute. So
there is a question later on that Livia has that is going to speak a lot to what you're mentioning. So I don't want to cut you off, but I do
no. I also don't want to take up. I don't want to take up time because I'm supposed to do 1 minute, and I went beyond 1 minute.
Xavier, that was fantastic, and I really appreciate this input actually. And this type of resistance is very important to talk about, because I think this is why initially when we were switching from face-to-face to online learning, many of the teachers who had very low level of confidence with technology, overall technology, not just education technology as
oh God, you cannot imagine.
They just threw the towel and they said like, I'm not doing this. Why am I have to do this? Why do I have to do this? Why am I forced to do this? And there's a lot of resistance. And even when I have a similar experience actually, and I really appreciate your input, because I think.
I took the TESL course because I really wanted to, because it was just before I was teaching, and then I was taking the course just at the time the government invoked the confinement and created the virtual schools. I came in because all sorts of circumstances. I came in like at the new year, and the teachers were just like they were like freaking out. And this is something that I wrote in the comment. This is something that I'm a bit resentful, because we had 20 years to prepare for this. And when I took the TESL course, because it's the University of Quebec's online university, and they were giving free courses on this, and they were explaining that one of the biggest challenges was how to transform the in-person pedagogy or curriculum to online, because there are some major differences that have to be looked at, and you can't just transfer it one-to-one.
Yeah, it doesn't work. It does not work.
And this is the biggest challenge that everybody had. And I know that because I worked at like I said, I was working at a mainstream school commission, and we were doing what they call the virtual school. And I had a really great support. I mean, the guys that did the tech were outstanding, but some of the teachers were really great. But I had other teachers that were just like, oh God, what do I do?
I'm not doing it. Yeah.
I know I'm lost. We have no choice. I'm lost. What do we do? And this is the biggest problem. And this is something that the society, we as a society and we as a government and the governments need to really have a serious discussion. Because I see that whether we like it or not, online schooling is going to be the norm.
Xavier, you're taking all my questions up.
Sorry.
Every single thing you're saying is question 1, question 2, question 3.
Sorry. It's because I had this experience like it finished in like June of this year.
Yes, no,
I mean, I had a very intense because you have to understand that when I was hired, I had to replace a teacher, and this was like February. I had 1 week to prepare for this. Okay, before I taught the kids. So not only did I have to teach like I had to teach several subjects. I had to get to know each kid. I had to quickly see if they had what they call the intervention plans, because some kids have problems. I had to find out discreetly some kids' very serious situation. So it's like it was a stressful thing, but I had really great support. What's important, I think Livia and Mitra will probably allude to this. What's very important is that the school and the teachers need a lot of support. Yeah. And it's not just support from the technical. We need support from the teachers. We need to create not just a professional community within the school, but we need to create a broader,
like global.
Global, because I don't have the answers. I'm the last person. I'm the last person that I want to give advice to. Okay, I have some very minor experiences, but and I hope everybody can share their own experiences.
You should come and share them with us in another TESL dialect.
Sorry, I'm taking too much
time. No, it's okay. When we're passionate, we're passionate. I get it. Okay, but for the sake of time, we're going to move on because I think we all can define motivation. I mean, we've sped past that. We've gone into intricate discussions now. So please, Livia, take us to our next question.
Yes. So
the next question. Yeah. Sorry, Loretta, go ahead.
So what is the difference between motivation and management? So let's cover this.
Very, very quickly. This is actually linked to the first question. So I wanted to make a difference between motivation and management because, as we talked about it before, and as I mentioned before, there is intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. And even before the pandemic, the ability to motivate students was definitely decreasing year after year and after year. I mean, I've seen it with my own eyes. The main reason that the main reason for this decreasing motivation is that we overuse extrinsic motivation. We rely on extrinsic motivation. So extrinsic motivation describes motivation that comes from the desire to receive a reward or avoid punishment. So, and in most of our courses, this receiving a reward, to get a high mark, get a high grade, especially students from China, they have this type of mentality that they want a 90, they want a 95, because that's the only grade that counts, right? So this type of reward system that they are used to this type of rewards or to avoid punishment from their parents. So it is a tricky one because the extrinsic motivation, I would not even call it motivation. I call that management, behavior management, because this is like behavior modification. The goal is to modify that behavior, not the mindset. And we're not implanting, if we are using too much extrinsic motivation factors, we are not actually implanting the desire to learn in the learners, and their motivation is not coming from that inner desire to learn something. So I just wanted to add this motivation and management to the first topic, which is what is motivation. So this type of reward-based motivation, I would not even call it motivation. I would call it behavior management. It's like, you're conditioning the learners to get a reward, to get a high mark, and it's not the same as motivation. Motivation is intrinsic. It has to be an inner desire that they want to improve their language. They want to learn vocabulary. So, Mitra just added it in the chat. Exactly. So I just wanted to add that for the first question, and we can move to the third one. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Because we want to add, some.
Sure,
sorry,
Loretta, please do. No, please go.
Yeah, just adding, one very important thing that I just mentioned earlier. This is just maybe we have motivated students, but they're not going to be as engaged as they must be. So these two terms are totally different. So when we want, our students to be in class, to be active, and then we're going to just, engage them, within an active learning process. So it means that motivation is there. But, we as teachers, we have to create, the activities and the tasks. In other words, the physical environment of the class in general should provide, the engagement of the students as well. In other words, this is, what I just,
Question
again,
3 and 4.
because, I'm really interested, in theoretical foundations of whatever we are doing. So Barclay, 2009, saying that engaged students are trying to make meaning of what they are learning. And engaged students are involved in the academic task at hand and are using higher order thinking skills, such as analyzing information or problem-solving tasks. So this is, I think, what we are trying to do in our college and university classes. And I'm sure that even, lower levels, link school, right? Adult ESL classes, we are not just, there to help them to be able to communicate, because we want them, to be able to use whatever, they are learning at the moment in future. For example, they go to the bank. They are practicing, a lot in the class, right? They are just, doing role playing. But are they really prepared to do a real bank conversation? So this is, what I mean, by motivation on one side and engaging the students on the other side. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, Loretta.
No, please. That's why we're here for.
Before we move on,
no, it's okay. Some of it is going to come in question 3 and 4. We're just diving into it now.
That's okay. But some people are having some really great conversations in the chat. So maybe before we move on,
I'm just checking.
I can just quickly ask, would anyone like to comment out loud before we go on to the next question? And don't worry, if you're in the chat, we are talking with you. We are in there. We are reading. We're responding. But would anyone like to, have any comments about the difference between motivation and management? Okay, I don't see any hands up, Loretta, so I think we're good to move on.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I think this is the question we really want to know. How do we motivate students in a face-to-face learning environment? So we'll start with a face-to-face one. Livia or Mitra?
I actually made a quick, I have a very quick 9 list. Mm-hmm. So, okay. In the 22 years I've been a teacher, this is the stuff that I use in the face-to-face learning environment. And then the question 4 is actually how are you motivating them in an online learning environment and the differences. So we're going to edge out the differences between the two teaching and learning environments. So me personally, what I use in a face-to-face learning environment, I use different types of reward system, encouragement, praise. Always works. For me, it works to provide instant feedback. And this type of instant feedback, I provide video feedback on writing, voice recorded feedback on presentations, on speaking. And this instant feedback is actually crucial in online learning environment. So it's coming to that question 4, relying on motivation of the classroom environment. So I rely on students' motivation. If they want to do well in a face-to-face environment, you could see, because there is some kind of peer pressure happening. So they don't want to be the last one. They don't want to be the ones who score the lowest in the quiz. And this type of peer pressure, actually, you can turn it into something positive. Number 7, I put magic of my personality, being always motivated, happy, in class. When you are positive, students are going to be positive. When they see that you love what you teach, they're gonna come to the class and they come with some level of motivation. So I think our motivation and teachers closely linked to obviously what we do and how we motivate learners. I normally use quick question answers. There is a lot of Q&As in my classes, in face-to-face classes, and I normally take part in activities. So for example, if I set up a group discussion and I have 6 different groups, they're doing a debate on something, I sit with them and I just sit there, take notes, or sometimes I take part. I actually sit with the learners and I take part in the activity. And then the last one, I think I put for 9 questions, always to keep their motivation up and their interest up. I always use questions, this type of concept checking questions. Those ICQs, CCQs that we learn in teacher training. that is just magic. It works magic. At least for me, it works in a face-to-face learning environment. So those are my 10. I don't know what do you have, Mitra? You can.
Yeah, you know what? Just in brief.
Yes.
Again,
yeah. Okay.
The 5 things that I do really believe in it, and I think that okay, if we just follow, the pattern, not like something that okay, this teacher's style is to start the class like this. I don't want to be predictable by my students, right? This is the way that we can keep the motivation among our students. So I think relevance, whatever we are doing in class, should be something just related to their interest, the topic, the discussion. So this is one thing that we can keep. In other words, good practices. The second one is going to be choice. It means giving students more choices. For example, in communication courses that we are teaching, Loretta, right? So I just heard, in one of the workshops, that was interesting, that why we are always asking our students, to write the final outcome or the product like, an essay. So that essay can be, for example, taking the form of a weblog, right? Or, for example, something like, maybe a scenario or some other stuff like that. So why we are just, forcing our students that, no, this is the only acceptable version of the assignment that you have to, hand it, at the end of the term. So it means that, variation makes, the students and keep them, I think, motivated, give them, options. But my question at that time for that presenter was this, that don't you think that if we have 25 students in the class and each of them saying that, oh, teacher, you know what, I want to just, present my final assignment like this, a lecture, a presentation, the other one, a weblog. So that's even, a video. Then she told me that, no, Mitra, this is going to be like, having, the autonomous feature, right? Because we're not going to just push the students. We're going to just, flourish their attitude, their interest, their aptitude. And we're going to be happy at the end if they are just, following the norms. The other one is just, as you mentioned, rewarding, recognizing, students' efforts, right? So it means that even, small, let's say, rewards, or even, sometimes say, well done, very good. Oh, I'm enjoying, the nice conversation here. So this really, impact the students' interaction and collaboration to the discussion. So feedback. And the last one that relates, I think, to us as the teacher is just, the teaching methods and the tools that we have. So sometimes attending, these different webinars, I think more than 50 right now. And I'm just saying that, Mitra, you're teaching, for a year and a half online, but still you do not know about, these plenty of tools. But at the end, I just, say to myself that, Mitra, you do not need to pick all of them. Just pick the ones that you think first. Number one, you are comfortable with, you know how to use them, let's say, professionally and effectively, in class. And you know what? The purpose is not, giving our students, let's say, more confusion, because our students are confused. Yes, always. You say something, you explain everything to them, and then, you receive email that, teacher, instructor, ma'am, what should I do with this? Did you mean this? Did you mean that? So it means that something which is really simple, something which is really doable, practical, and it really, fits the needs of both of us, the students and also me as the teacher. So just in short, you can say relevance, choice, recognizing effort, feedback, and teaching methods and tools are the ones that we can use, to motivate our students in face-to-face context. And I think mostly applicable in online as well. Thank you.
All right, well, Mitra and Livia, thank you both so much. We've been having a very lively discussion in the chat.
Yeah, I see.
Oh my gosh, I'm just
Deborah
in there
has
typing
a lot of
away.
Interesting things, right?
It's fantastic, but I want to bring us back to this really important question. So again, anyone who's here, like I said, we're all experts in our own rights, in our own contexts. So I'd love if someone would raise their hand and get this conversation going, or in the chat, you can let us know what you're thinking, and I'm more than happy to read it out loud. So one thing that we're talking about right now in the chat, which may or may not be relevant, is the fact that depending, to motivate students, you can involve them in assessment. And there are some people who are saying, well, sometimes, especially if you have a firm curriculum, or if you're in a public or a privately funded school, that's not quite possible. And so we're just throwing some ideas out there. And Livia mentioned the fact that involve them with the rubrics, whether it's making the rubric, whether it's evaluating the rubric, whether it's adding things in. I mentioned you can have them help you make a certain kind of assessment task, right? Are they writing an essay? Is it multiple choice? Is it role playing? What is it that they're able to do? So everyone's giving some really cool ideas here. Yeah, so Loretta said something awesome. She said, involve them in one way or another, and then they will feel empowered and they will also end up being motivated. So that sounds really good. And Sarah agrees. Sarah says, I think offering various types of activities to engage all learning types helps with the motivation of her students. So that's great to know. Thank you, Sarah. Oh, so Xavier says another thing that can really help is having students included when creating classroom rules. And I've done that and students love that. That's a great one for learners. All right, cool. So we're going now into some maybe different topics. So maybe we can move on to the next question now, Loretta, if that's okay.
Thank you.
Absolutely, great. I love the conversation that's going on here. So the other question we have is a discussion question. How is motivating students different in an online environment compared to the face-to-face one? And what obstacles do instructors face?
I don't want to interrupt, but this is kind of what we've been discussing this entire time.
Absolutely.
We should have started here.
Right? At the very core of this discussion. Yeah, ladies.
You want to go first, Mitra, or I go first?
You know what?
Like? I have a very quick.
I have a series of, 6, let's say, very brief
go for it.
points. So Ryan Barone, that's actually, the initiator of ID Tech website in 2019, just saying that in brief, if you boil down the good things about online learning, you'll get the following. So those 3, let's say, things are: online learning gives the learner more control over what they can learn. The second one is it allows learners to progress at their own pace. And the third one, it says that it doesn't subject learners to distractions from others, right? Even, students are alone in the room, but still they are distracted. But generally speaking, we can say that, okay, there are no other factors of distractions like, a peer sitting next to them, or I don't know, some other stuff like that. But he also at the same time saying that playing devil's advocate role, online learning requires less commitment. This is, what I see, not with the majority of the students at college level that we are teaching, but I see that some of them are really punctual. They are really participating in different activities. They are handing in, all the assignments or homework. They are prepared. This is, what I ask my students, that if you are planning to attend the class, the live class, the weekly live class, be prepared, fully prepared, and be on time, please. So when I start the class, 5 minutes earlier, just to admit, the students, I see that, oh my God, 20 of them are in the waiting room, right? So this means to me that, hey, Mitra, this group of students are really interested, motivated. They want to learn, something by attending. Mm-hmm. The second one says online learning might lead learners to falsely think that they are ready to progress. Isn't it like that? The students thinking that, okay, I learned this, I know this, so I'm going to just do this in that way. I'm ready, to do the next assignment. But you have to always telling them that, wait, we haven't started, for example, the second assignment yet. So we have to practice this first. We have to learn it. And then when you are ready, then we can move to the second. And online learning comes with plenty of distractions. So even, they are alone, even, they are in their own place. Some of them, they say that, okay, this is, the learning mode that I do really like it, but still, it seems like, they are distracted, they are confused. So this is something that they have to figure out about themselves, that, okay, what is this, let's say, factor that distracting me more? Mostly I tell them, this is my phone. even, I'm waiting for very important messages or emails, but I do not put it, next to me. It's not going to be, on my desk near to
I
my
actually
computer.
do the total opposite. I have to say, I actually do the total opposite.
This is up to you.
Because with the phone, if this is something that distracts them, if you involve the learners with the phone, for example, a competition game that you broadcast online, and then they use the phone to answer the questions, then the phone is no longer a distraction. It's actually a tool for learning. So because the question is obstacles, right?
Yeah.
So the obstacle, yeah, for example, Kahoot. And so I wanted to add just Mitra's ideas, like, and why I put this question here for the obstacles, because after the obstacles, obviously, we're looking for solutions. So very quickly, my list of obstacles is internet connection issues, tech problems, not having the camera on, colleges, universities, organizations saying like, oh, it's a privacy issue, they don't have to have the camera on. Well, I'm not teaching little black boxes, I'm teaching humans. So I usually make it very, very clear in the beginning of the class, if the camera is not on, I cannot actually be sure that the learner is there or they actually listening or there or what they're doing. So I'm not comfortable with that. I always ask the learners, if they want to be marked present, they have to have the camera on. Other problems with issues, obstacles that we may feel, teachers, is that we feel undervalued, because the learners are not attending the classes, they're not engaging with our classes. So teachers can also lose motivation, and that rubs onto the learning environment, that rubs onto the whole learning process. So sometimes we may feel that we are trying to interact with learners and we are just wasting our time because they're not engaging. So for me, these are the type of obstacles that I normally face, and also the prep. So preparation time is 3 times longer for an online class than the prep time what we have in a face-to-face learning environment. And that is kind of like, if you should have 30% preparation, 30% teaching, and 30% reflection and marking and assessment. I mean, that's what we learn in teacher training, right? And in an online learning environment, this 30% is just like 60% is prep, because we are creating a PowerPoint with a video. So for me, those are the type of obstacles. And Loretta, if you be kind enough to move to question 5, because question 5 is actually the solutions, and I think everybody's waiting for those. What tools we may have to actually tackle these type of obstacles skillfully.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of discussion going on and ideas shared in the chat box. Please keep doing so. This is amazing. This is what we're here for. So as Livia was saying, this is our next question. So what tools do we have in an online learning environment that may be used skillfully to bring learners in? And I think we are waiting for this. So tell us, what are these tools?
I go first, so you go first, Mitra. I have a list of 11. I go, okay. So I have the first one. For me, if you're tackling something that is just too big, you have to break it down. And my example for this is tool number 1. If they are writing an essay, have them in one class in breakout rooms brainstorm on a collaborative mind map. In the next class, they will outline together. In the following class, they can draft together. They peer review, proofread for each other. In the following class, for example, and we all know the steps of the writing process, right? And the next class, they create a rubric. In the following class, they can maybe proofread for each other, peer evaluate. They give feedback to each other on the writing. And then just after all this process, they would publish, they would actually hand in the assignment. So break it down, small pieces of work. It always works better in an online learning environment. So that's my tool number 1. My tool number 2, I already talked about, is regular feedback. Giving students regular feedback and encouragement motivates them. It makes a dramatic difference when you're motivating your learners. And this type of feedback could be, you pull them out in a breakout room, you have a quick one-to-one with them, you give them a video feedback on their writing, you give them a voice recorded feedback on Voocaro, for example, on their presentations, and you share it as a link. So there could be loads of different types of feedback. It's a different dialogue. But for me, number 2 as a tool is regular and instant feedback, or timely feedback. That's a better word. Encouraging students to master a particular topic, not necessarily to promise them a reward. for me, that always works. And one of the big one for me is 24/7 being accessible. And I know that sounds crazy, but actually research shows that keeping in contact with your students offline, outside the Zoom meeting or outside the meeting time, it actually increases their performance and engagement. Now, this means that I had students, most of the students I had in China, I had a WeChat going offline. And I know many of the teachers may feel intimidated by this whole idea that they have to be accessible to the learners 24/7, but you don't have to be always online or always responding to the chat. But it's actually a great tool to have an offline chat going when learners can actually engage outside the virtual learning environment. And what else? I have forums that works for me. I like to put weekly forums with different topics. These are off-topic discussions that learners are free to engage with. This could be, for example, I ask them about their prior learning experiences in 1 week, or the other time I ask about making a comparison between their prior educational setting and the current educational setting, price point systems work, and overall good planning, good organization, providing clear examples for the learners. And what I mentioned before, these ICQs, CCQs, always checking, instruction checking questions, concept checking questions. So always have those on. But I think on the top of this 10 list, for me, the offline chat is number one. To have that available with the learners, so the learners can chat with me if they want. Mitra?
Yeah, the question is actually, focusing on what are the tools that make, or keep your students, motivating. But I just, took another, let's say, perspective towards the same question. So for example, in Zoom platform, so the only thing that maybe, we thought that, okay, it's possible to do it is just, okay, we are having, the option of screening, sharing my screen, and whiteboard, and also breakout room. So that was actually, one of the feedback that I read in the chat, I think at the beginning of the conversation, that one of the ladies, or I don't know, one of the participants saying that breakout rooms even, bring up, let's say, or it looks like, a booster to low, let's say, level of motivated students. And this is really true. But let me just share my own experience. I had my students in their breakout rooms, okay? And then I noticed that, and I told them, all the instructions that, okay, I'm gonna just, put you into breakout rooms. You're gonna discuss, with your group mates about this or whatever. So the topic was there, the activities was explained, fully to them. But then I took the role of just, going and joining, each of those rooms. And I noticed that, hey, 3, let's say, black boxes with names, no audio, no video. And, at college here, some schools, they say that, okay, do not force the students to turn on their videos. That's because of, the privacy. So that was actually, 2 extremes that I experienced, in online mode of teaching. At York, they asked us, and the students had to be for 4 hours, depending on the class, reading, writing, or listening, speaking, to be just, fully there, active, video on, and audio on as well. So for 4 hours. But then in the afternoon, teaching at college, oh my God, it was just, deadly silence. It looked like, me, Mitra, talking, just to my screen. Even, they were just showing, in the participants number that 25 are there. Then I figured it out that, okay, this breakout room is not going to be helpful in this way. So I said that, guys, you see my picture, you hear my voice. Can I see your picture? Can I hear your voice? And then I noticed that one by one, they are turning on their videos and audios and start, chatting and talking. And that way I was able just, to make them collaborate, in that type of activity. But listen, at college, because of the content that we have to cover, every week, just in 2 hours online, because mostly everything is asynchronous, Larita, right? So just 2 hours, or the office hours, is just, the time that I have, just to cover, the heart of the materials as fast as I can. So I cannot spend, my timing on Kahoot, right? This is really good. But maybe, just, for some sessions, I cannot do and employ all these, let's say, available tools in every week class that I'm having, with my students. So I think, to my opinion, it depends on you, the level of the students, the content that you have to cover, every session. So my classes right now is just, once a week for 3 hours, 2.5 hours for each class. But I remember, at ULE, we've been, with our students for 4 hours every day. So that's going to make, a big difference. But these are, I found, an interesting online article. It was about, Zoom and what you can do. It says, this is the title for the ones who are interested, to find out more. It says 25 strategies to engage students on your next Zoom meeting. And 25 strategies, I was just, reading one by one, and I didn't know that. So maybe, next time I'm going to use at least, one of them. This is one thing that I learned from another webinar. That, okay, I do the Zoom, perfect. But you know what? When I'm presenting the material, like, PowerPoint, video, or whatever that I'm sharing, my screen, I ask one of my students kindly that, are you going to be, the co-host with me? Or is there any volunteer to be co-teacher? And I see that, oh my God, at first, no, dead. But then I said that, excuse me, for example, Lydia, are you going to be my colleague today? And then Lydia just starting, and, she was responsible, or he was responsible to go through the chat. And while I'm lecturing, I say that, Lydia, any questions so far? Any comments in the chat box? And that person is just, expressing, the ideas of the other. So this is the way that really works for me in my class. Maybe it's not working for you. So I think this is, again, depends on how skillful we are, how talented we are. All of us are talented. I know teachers, ESL teachers, English teachers, all teachers. This is, the unique feature of us. Having, that aptitude, positive attitude, energetic, fresh. Even, I'm tired. Well, when I, show my face to class, I say that, guys, do you see that I'm tired? They say that, no, Mitra, you are fresh, fresh, fresh. Well, after the class, I'm dead. But, while I'm in class, it doesn't matter, what time of the day I'm teaching to class. So it means that all depends on us. And when they see that you are highly motivated, you are there passionately teaching them, they're going to just, be like you. At least, the majority of them.
Thank you, Mitra.
We cannot expect, all of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitra.
Thank you. I never thought about that, but having someone be like a co-teacher is really cool.
And it's really working, Colleen. Yeah, I learned it, in one of the seminars. So I just tried it, and I found out that, okay, they like it.
Yeah.
So why not? This is the purpose of, attending sessions like this, right?
Exactly.
And I wish I had the chance of, reading what's going on in the chat box.
You can catch up. Don't worry, you can definitely catch up.
Yes.
Livia, is there anything that you'd like to add on to what Mitra said? I know that you had some time to speak as well, but maybe you have some other ideas you'd like to share before we go back over to see what everyone else wants to say?
Yeah, well, half of the question 6 was covered also. So I just, into 2 in 1. But so I just wanted to reiterate again that the best online pedagogy for engaging the learners in terms of tools is not just our motivation rubbing onto the learners, but having the chat rooms that I mentioned before, the weekly forums, feedback on the assignments, timely or instant, having your office hours, pull the learners out, provide those feedback in breakout rooms, and make your class interactive. And this is, I think, in online, it's very important that the class is interactive. You don't have to know all the ed tech, know a handful that you are comfortable with. that's 5 ed tech that you use, and your class will be more interactive and learners will be more engaging. We can go for the next question, I think, because
maybe I'll just open it up to see if anyone else,
okay.
anyone anyone who's here, like we said earlier. I know that our chat is so lively, which is fantastic, but if anybody wanted to make a comment out loud quickly, we'd be more than happy to hear what you have to say. Just remember, you can raise your hand and we'll be more than happy to call on you. Okay, I don't think anyone would like to, because we've had maybe 10 minutes raise our hands. So maybe, Loretta, we can move on to the next question, which will have to be our last question before poll 2, and then we'll go on to the breakout room.
It is precisely that. So this question is about, to what extent do you believe that course designers take a bigger role when creating an online course? So it's course design in an online environment. The floor is over to you again, Livia, Mitra.
Yeah, Livia.
Yeah, so I am a strong believer that the course designers, they actually can make your course a successful course or an unsuccessful course. And why am I saying that? Because the people who design the course shells, they are supposedly trained learning technologies. And learning technologies meaning that they know online pedagogy, not just us, like we know pedagogy, we know how to teach, but online pedagogy and pedagogy that we use, language teaching technology that we use in face-to-face classrooms, it's totally different. It's a totally different beast. The people who design the course shells on Desirable, on Blackboard, Moodle, whatever LMS learning management system your college or university or language school is using, they are the ones who actually can create these interactive elements in the course shell. Let it be an H5P or making your PowerPoint presentations a little bit more lively with animations, having your comprehension questions popping up within the PowerPoint or in the video. These are not something that all teachers can learn instantly. It is actually the responsibility of the course designers who are trained in this. And I wanted to actually talk about this very briefly, just for the sake of it, because motivating your students in an online learning environment is not just motivation when you are in the virtual learning environment, but also your course shell. Whatever materials, instructional materials you are presenting to the students, whether they are organized, are they engaging, what type of tech is there plugged in, what type of interactive elements the core designer may be plugging into your course shell. Are there chats, are there forums, are there quizzes, what type of presentations are there? So this is, I think, is also really, really important. So the course designer should be actively involved in the curriculum planning process, and that will impact on the motivation of the learners. So that just I wanted to point out briefly. So there is a link between the two.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody else agrees.
Because they are not only live with us, but they are only offline with the course, right? They interact with the course and they go and see whatever assignments and tools we have used. So definitely true.
Yes. Thank you.
I find that even highlighting something in red, for instance, I do that with my students. If it is in red, it means it's something you have to pay attention to. It's something you have to finish, complete within a deadline. Even such small things, you need the tools to do it, right? So you need the LMS to be prompt and to offer you the possibility to do it. I just had one comment earlier about tools. Let's not forget that our students don't only have us. They have so many other teachers, professors. So if we all use 4, 5, 10 different tools, that's hard on the students as well, right?
Yeah.
So let's stick to 2 or 3 tools we feel comfortable, and I think that's enough.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you, Loretta. Thank you for adding that. Yes.
Okay, so it's poll time, everybody. So after the experience of teaching online and given the choice of staying online or returning to a face-to-face learning environment, which one would you prefer? I'm sure we've all thought about this. And there are 5 options from which to choose. 1, I definitely wish to go back to teaching face-to-face. 2, I would probably like to return to teaching face-to-face. 3, I would like to do both face-to-face and online. Number 4, I enjoy teaching online. I would probably prefer teaching online. And number 5, 100%, I love teaching online. The convenience cannot be beaten. Okay, so let's launch the polls. Are you ready to vote?
Olivia, let me know if you're okay with launching it.
Yeah, I'm launching it. Sorry,
Okay.
I'm just typing
No, it's
for
okay.
Xavier.
It's okay.
No
I know you're
problem.
having fun in the
Launching
chat. That's okay.
There it is. I got it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was chatting, responding to Xavier, but
it's okay. No problem.
yeah. So at the end, I wanted to ask the audience about this question, because we have been teaching online now for 18 months. In England, we went back to fully blown face-to-face. Some of the smarter organizations, they are exploring blended and online options, as well as the face-to-face option. But nobody really asked the teachers, what do we want? So I thought, here is the opportunity. You can express here how you feel about this question. I'm just waiting for 3 more people to respond. And
I think that's us.
That's us, okay. So definitely want to go back to teaching face-to-face. I would like to do both. Okay, so the majority actually wants to do both. I enjoy teaching online, but I would probably prefer teaching in a face-to-face somewhat or partially, and 100% love online teaching. The convenience cannot be beat. Well, I don't know, Mitra, which one would you be if you were to choose?
You know what, to be honest, I think, this way of teaching has made me, I don't know, I'm not a lazy person, but I think, commuting to school, especially, in fall and in winter in Toronto, that was a big pressure on me. But definitely I would like, to get back to campus, enjoy walking, just between York University and, Seneca at your campus. That was really, lovely. Feeding the geese. That was actually, one part of my hobbies daily, sharing my lunch, with them. So I love, to get back, but it depends. Especially, at this very, 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 let's say, critical time, like, vaccination. So Seneca right now, you may have heard it, in the news that it's, one of the colleges that has required, students, staff, the faculty to be fully vaccinated, even, for a short visit. So Loretta knows that we have to just, have the app on our cell phones, and we have to have, the certificates or whatever, the proof of, vaccination. And we have to do an online, let's say, checking at the beginning. So it requires, to do a lot of, let's say, pre-steps, like into, let's say, enter the college. So I myself, prefer right now both. Partly maybe, 2 days, online, and 3 days, go back to campus. But I've always been, a traditional teacher. I love, the blackboard with chalk. Okay, so I'm that type of teacher, but technology also, helping us. And this is, the way that we have to adapt ourselves. Otherwise, they would say that, okay, Mitra, you're a traditional teacher. You need, a chalkboard. So I'm sorry, it's better for you to stay at home, right? So I see right now that, okay, I have developed, I have improved, a little bit, not that much. This is just the only thing that I can share with you. The more I know, the more I learn, I think that the less I know. This is what I do really believe in it. So having, the high degree of education, publications, presentation, this does not guarantee that you know everything. No. And I'm just wondering that people, not having, this much of experience or whatever, but they believe that they know a lot. So to me, that was, one of the questions that the jury in my dissertation, session asking me. And that professor right now is in USA asking me that, Mitra, you're just ready, to defend your dissertation. So how do you feel? And I said that, honestly, doctor, I think that even, I get, this degree, but I know less than before. And this is the way that always, I'm just having, different types of books, read it. This is the way I live to learn. This is just, one thing. So that's it.
what is it called? Lifelong learner? Isn't that what we're all supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, well, with that being said, I don't want to take away from time for our breakout rooms.
Yes.
So Loretta, if you could kindly bring us over to that slide.
Here we are already. So we want all of you to discuss strategies that encourage motivation and engagement among your learner groups and even yourself. So what are the strategies that you think encourage motivation and engagement among your learners and you as the instructor? So we'll put you into breakout rooms. Colleen is getting ready for that. And you'll have a chance to communicate with one another and share your own strategies based on what we said tonight, but also based on your previous precious experience so far. Enjoy your time.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed your time in the breakout rooms.
And everybody's camera is on. Yeah.
Yes. Motivated.
Yeah.
Nice to see you, everybody.
Well, welcome back. We have a couple of minutes, 5 minutes to spare. So what I might ask, if one person from each breakout room would like to share with us maybe what you discussed, or maybe your favorite thing that you heard, or something that was, thoughtful, whatever you'd like it to be. So from breakout room 1, there was, and please, if I pronounce your name wrong, feel free to correct me. In breakout room 1, there was Anjana, Brenda, Jagdeth, Jennifer, Rosa, and Shahira. So would any of you, and we're just going to have one person per room for the sake of time, would any of you like to share something you discussed that you really wanted to have the rest of the group know?
So in our group, I think the main focus we had was the importance of getting to know who your students are. What are their priorities? What motivates them as individuals? And then based on that, bringing in work that is going to tweak that's going to engage them in that level. And so having, multiple strategies that are engaging your different types of learners, but also like really making a connection with them on why the course matters to them specifically. And that it's making that link for them and not just assuming that they're going to make that link themselves, because they may not. So you have to explicitly say, this task is going to help you in the future to do this task in the real world. And really showing them how, and even in feedback, right? Doing the same thing in feedback, and just, taking that time to get them in your planning process is the main thing. So I think that was our main theme.
Sounds like a great thing to me. Thank you. We'll move on to room 3 now. In room 3, we had Ali, Elzbieta, Mitra, which we brought her back, Sarah, and Xavier. So if any of you, and again, we just remind you, just one person, if any of you would like to share what something you discussed was, maybe a summary, what your favorite point was, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, we were talking about the challenges these days with online classes that, okay, the students are not interested, for example, to turn on the cameras. So, but for the adult students, we don't have that kind of issue, that kind of problem. But as we were discussing, for the teenagers, I think because of the cultural background, for example, from China or from Japan, so most of the teenagers and students are not interested in turning on the cameras. So, but I myself, put them in the breakout room with the cameras on. So in that situation, they're interested in, sharing their ideas with the cameras on. But in the case of, for example, tests or presentations, they have to turn on the cameras. And I think that one of the best solutions is that, okay, so Elizabeth, stated that, so that she doesn't have this kind of issue because all of the students have to turn on the cameras all the time. But sometimes students are, shy. They're not interested in turning on their cameras. So I myself, give them this kind of persuasion that, okay, so you have to express your thoughts with the cameras on. But in the case of presentations, the cameras are on all the time, and for the test as well. So I think we have been running these kind of, issues these days. But for the adult classes, maybe teachers do not have that kind of problem.
Thank you, Ali. And I think you're right. I think it depends on the context, what the policies are of the institution, the age, even the topic, like, is it specifically for ESL? Is it communications? Is it perhaps a prerequisite course that everyone has to take, or did I take it willingly because I want to develop something? Am I paying for this course? Is this free? Right? So there's tons of reasons as to what all of you were saying and some background. And I think that it's really interesting that as ESL professionals, we live and work in so much varied context that when we do have these discussions, we can exchange and learn and hear different points of view. So thank you so much, Ali.
No problem.
Okay, and now we're going to go on to room 6. In room 6 was Deborah, Edna, Rebecca, Sarah, and Sean. So if any of you would like to share, and remember, it's just one person, what you discussed in your group, and maybe a summary, a synopsis, your favorite comments, an activity you left with, anything. We'd love to hear. So room 6 again was just Deborah, Edna, Rebecca, Sarah, and Sean. Hi, Edna. Go ahead.
So Deborah has a different setup. She has a class, not exactly a class, but it's a one-on-one tutoring sort of. And Rebecca and I have our link classes. So in the link class, we are always having that, at the start of the school year, you have to have the needs assessment. What do you want to learn? What motivates you to take the English class? You are old already, you're adults, you have families, okay? And then they will tell us that in writing that they are needed to be able to integrate in the Canadian society. Simply talk to the neighbors in English, go shopping in English, although they can go to the ethnic stores, but you cannot go there all the time. So they need that. And then they go to their children's schools to talk to the teacher, understand what the their students are taking up. Can they understand what their children are saying? Their assignments, to help them as well with their assignments. And so, and then we were lucky to have someone from Turkey. Wow, that was interesting. She has pupils in Turkey that use worksheets to do their lessons. So that motivates their children to do their class activities. Okay, so
thank you so much, Edna. And it sounds like, as different as it is teaching adults and teaching children, sometimes there's some ideas you might take a little piece here and a little piece there and throw it together. So thank you so much for sharing that. All right, well, we've come to the end of our session, but don't leave yet. I want to quickly hand it over to Loretta because she needs to say a great big thank you to 2 important people.
Absolutely. So thank you to Livia and Mitra and to everybody who joined us tonight and who contributed. This was an amazing group of motivated individuals who came here to learn more about how we could motivate our students. And as Xavier was saying, we need to keep this conversation going. Let me remind you, this is not the first one we're doing on student engagement and motivation. Our very first TESL dialogue was on engagement. You can watch it on YouTube, and we'll post this discussion on YouTube as well. But there's so much to say, and we'll keep on discussing this issue, definitely. So thank you again, everybody. You could see Livia and Mitra's details here, their email and LinkedIn. So please connect with them and send them questions. Thank you again, Livia and Mitra.